You know, this is what every single last king needs to understand. Currently, I'm at the usual place I come to chill after school. I'm at Taos University. I've been here for like I swear like the last 2 days I've been here, last 2 or 3 days, and I don't go to school here. I go to school down the block, Morgan State University. But I come here to chill. Very nice campus. They got a lot of YNs, but very nice, lots of people. They have free dining halls. And the girls here are way better than the Morgan girls. Cause damn, I can't lie. Don't let this calm demeanor, this calm face, everything calm about me fool you. Cause damn, I can't lie, man. I was just coming from being angry as hell. I was just being angry as hell, man, for real. Cause Morgan, I call it Bop City University. I call it Bop City University straight up. It's Bop City University. And damn, man, the girls there, they're going for real. They're going for real. They're going for real. They're going for real. Like, man, this dude, he got I know a couple of guys like this, man. He got rape allegations, harassment allegations. He been posted online. He been posted on social media platforms and stuff like that. You got the T app and stuff like that. And it's like, damn, bro, he still got girls fucking with him for real. He still got girls fucking with him for real. And, it's allegations that him and his friends, they get women drunk and, they get them drunk to try to have, intercourse with them. You feel me? And these girls are still fucking with him, Like, how do you even get to the point where you in this, room and you, how do you not know the nigga's an issue, man? Like, everybody posts them and stuff like that, Guys be getting posts and stuff like that. It's like, you still mess with them, man. They bops for real. They bops. It's Bop City University. They bops, At this school, the girls, they're not as boppish as the Morgan State girls, but they're not. I don't know. I feel like they're not that far behind for real. They're not that far behind. But I'm a ghost though, for real. I'm a ghost. I keep a lot of stuff on the low. I keep a lot of stuff on the low. But honestly, I act completely different from you see me on these videos. I be pretty serious. I'm a totally different person on here than I am in real life. In real life, I can't lie. I was just talking to my friend today, and he was like, trolling is a part of your personality, and he's right about that. I am a troll. I cannot lie. I be goofy. I can't lie. I am a troll. But here, this is the closest you're gonna get to my real self, for real. This is the closest you're gonna get. This is me being real. This is KingPill right here. When I cut this off, when I'm not, in that state of mind, in that state of consciousness, I go by my real life name. There's multiple people in here, not on some crazy stuff. There's multiple people. But anyway, everything is a reflection of self. Everything is a reflection of self. Everything reflects, everything mirrors. What else did I say? Damn, I put it in a community post, but everything reflects, everything mirrors. All roads lead back to the battle against self. All roads lead back to self. Everything. They all lead back to the battle against self, And I studied every single last religion, not deeply, but I studied all of them. And the common theme between all of them, all religions are basically self-improvement. All religions, when you strip away everything else, they're all about self-improvement. And they're all about the battle against self. That's what they're all about. I wrote a whole little online paper about it, but I realized this back in 2024. I had a whole little awakening back then. A ego death too and stuff like that. But everything leads back to the battle against self. All religions, when you strip them all down, it's all about self-improvement. It's all about self-improvement. It's all about facing yourself and, raising your consciousness. Raising your consciousness and basically becoming, I guess, more godlike. But it's all about raising consciousness, all about overcoming the animalistic mind, the ego and stuff like that. The animal mind, the ego, the lust, the desire. It's about overcoming all of that. But that's what all religions are basically all about. And I remember I posted this on Instagram, and this super religious girl, she was like, all I did was simply say, all these people, I see all these posts online, people going to church, all these religious posts, you feel me? But they gotta understand, like, it was a long time ago, but I basically just said that all of that is going to be wasted if you don't know the core lesson behind all of it. And the core lesson is the battle against self, overcoming self, overcoming the animal mind, overcoming the ego. That's what it's all about. But, she came at me on some religious holier than thou shit. She was actually the former miss from my school. She cool. Me and her are cool. I stopped talking to her after that, though. She didn't come after me crazy. It was just all this. It was low key kind of a little like radicalization. I'm not gonna lie. It was low key a little radicalization. Like, she sounded a little crazy, She cool, but she a little weird. I cannot lie. She bad though, but she went off the weird end, and she weird now, But yeah, she didn't understand the core lesson. I guess her whole ego, her whole sense of self is so wrapped up in it. And I even told her that, and she didn't respond to that shit. Her whole sense of self, her identity is so wrapped up in, I guess, being a religious person. She couldn't see past it. Anything that I didn't even challenge it. I just told her, I said they're all similar. They all have a similar core lesson, but, she's so rooted in the ego where it's like, mine is the best. You feel me? It's just, she don't get shit. Whatever. She's, me and her cool, but she weird though. She weird. I really stopped fucking with her after that. But anyway, yeah, they all lead back to the battle against self. And me being triggered today, I've realized just right now, me being triggered, even on the car ride when I was mad as hell, I was like, this shows something about me. You always have to ask the why behind the self, the why behind it. So you have to know your subconscious mind. You have to know your own subconscious. Why does that trigger you? Why did that piss you off? This is about knowing self. A lot of people, like I said in my last video, they don't know their unconscious patterns. They're run by the subconscious. What I mean, they don't know, they don't truly know self. A lot of people, they're run by their subconscious. They're basically living life on autopilot. So you have to know why that triggers you. Everything is a reflection of self. And I was realizing with people too, everything is a reflection of self. Everything mirrors. Like this one dude I know, he's a crasser, he's crazy, just really radicalized. And he reflected, because I can't lie, there was a time, I kind of was a little bit like that. I wasn't as crazy as him, but underneath the surface, I was a normal person to person. But underneath the surface, I was a little radicalized. I was very angry and stuff like that. And he mirrored back, basically, I realized he mirrored back, how I was. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like him. So he's a reflection of self. And even my girl, she used to be like, just the way she is, it reflects back to me, myself. It reflects back to me, myself. Everything is ironic. Everything, at least from my life, everything's ironic. Everything's irony, and everything just reflects back to you. You have to read in between the lines and see the lesson that's at play. So many guys, so many people, they're caught up in ego. They're caught up in, just self. They can't see it. They don't know their own subconscious. Living life on autopilot and living life like that. Living life run by your conditioning, run by your subconscious programming. It's not really living at all. You're not living. You're really not living. You're not living. So everything leads back to the battle against self. That's what this whole life is about. It's all about you facing yourself. It's all about you battling self. It's all about you overcoming self. You feel me? That's what all this is about. That's what all the hows are about. The semen retention, the no-fap, the diets we take on. You feel me? All the hows, all of them are all about you facing and overcoming yourself. You facing and overcoming your animalistic mind. Now, originally, and there's nothing wrong with this, as long as this is your starting point. A lot of guys, they do it for the external benefits. They do it for the girls. They want a girlfriend. They want, basically, they do it for ego at first. And that's fine at first, but you just can't be stuck there, though. You can't be stuck there, because you're going to realize, even though I satisfied the desire and the ego, another desire always pops up. Desire is never satisfied. Desire is never satisfied. That's something you have to understand. Desire, no matter how much you feed it, is never satisfied. And it's crazy, man. No, whatever. But yeah, I was triggered. I can't lie. You know, this video was originally supposed to be about how these damn college girls are going. These college girls are going, but I realized, you know, everything is a reflection of me. You know, me making that video, what's that gonna do? You know, what's that gonna do? What's it gonna do? You know, it's just gonna, you know, it's basically like, I guess, it just does nothing. You know, it's basically just venting, nothing constructive. You know, it's even putting negativity out there because, you know, not all girls are like that. You know, not all girls are going. Not all girls are bops. You feel me? But, you know, this life we're living is pretty deep. You just have to read in between the lines. It's pretty deep. Really deep. But anyway, I'll see you later.